In today's video, we'll explore 10 reasons why crayfish fight, and then I'll show you how to prevent these fights from occurring. The first reason crayfish fight is the actual species that you've chosen or going to choose.
Not all crayfish are equal. Some species are considered non-aggressive, whereas others are classified as aggressive.
For example, many dwarf species, Australian redclaw, also known as yabbies, are classed as non-aggressive crayfish. Red swamp crayfish, also known as crawfish or mudbugs, and blue crayfish, also known as marron, are classed as aggressive species.
There is also a third classification called semi-aggressive.
The marble crayfish is considered semi-aggressive. It's an amazing species that can self-replicate without the need to mate. The second reason for fighting is the number of crayfish you intend to stock in a given area, whether that be a tank, aquarium or pond.
It can be challenging to determine the correct stocking level. So how many crayfish should we stock?
Introduce too few and the reproduction numbers will be low. Introduce too many and it could result in carnage and high losses.
Firstly, these numbers should be taken as guideline figures. This is because there's numerous variables that we need to consider.
Take the several species mentioned previously as an example. Not all those species should be stocked at the same density. Your setup and how you manage it will also impact the number of crayfish you can stock.
However, I'd like to provide you with some figures to give you a rough idea to help you when you're planning your setup.
To provide a good yardstick, Australian redclaw adults should be stocked at a rate of 1 to 2 crayfish per square foot. For juveniles, a figure of approximately 25 per square foot is recommended. Next, the third reason why crayfish fight is related to their territorial nature. Each crayfish has its preferred area where it likes to hide, molt, rest during the day and take its food.
Crayfish will defend their territory when others try to move in.
You can help to reduce this occurrence by ensuring that they have more than enough hiding places. Leaving adequate space between hiding places will also help, but this is easier said than done, as crayfish tend to rearrange their furniture until they're satisfied with it. The size of crayfish plays a considerable role in potential fights breaking out.
But maybe not in the way you think.
Crayfish usually don't pick fights with bigger crayfish. I say usually because there are a few occasions where it could feasibly occur. Suppose a smaller crayfish has larger front claws than a bigger one, or a bigger crayfish has recently molted or is getting ready to molt. In that case, the smaller one might take them on. If for some reason a big crayfish intends to fight a smaller one, the small one shoots off backwards and the big one is left there alone.
Most of the time it's just posturing and what may look like slaps. Fights mainly take place when there's two similar sized crayfish. However, fights can still be avoided, and the good news is that we don't have to do anything about this. When you see all the posturing and slapping, what you can't see in the water is the crayfish urinating. This sends a health status message to the nearby crayfish. The urine transmits information such as mating, gender, molting and health. Now the likelihood of two similar sized crayfish with two similar health profiles resulting in the likelihood of a fight is relatively low.
The fifth cause of fights breaking out amongst crayfish is that they're greedy and don't like sharing the food. Often a crayfish will snatch an item of food and immediately begin consuming it. While doing so, it will attempt to grab whatever else it can before returning to its lair, where it will finish eating the food.
There are several things we can do to minimise these skirmishes.
Firstly, make sure you're feeding them enough, but not too much. If you see food left uneaten after an hour, then you've overfed them. Remove the excess feed and adjust the amount for the next feed accordingly.
Secondly, how often should you feed your crayfish?
Some growers recommend feeding once a week, others every 2 to 3 days. We feed ours once a day, others feed twice a day. Suppose you're experiencing excessive levels of fighting and you're feeding them every 2 to 3 days. In that case, we suggest switching to feeding daily and reduce the amount you give them. The exception is when you're feeding juveniles, which are preferably fed twice a day due to their more frequent molting, making them more vulnerable. The fourth thing you can do is to break down large food items into smaller ones. A crayfish will try its best to eat a whole dead fish that's twice its size and won't intend to share it either. Large size food items take longer to be consumed and are more likely to contaminate the water. Instead, mince that fish up, share it around and they'll all be happy. Do this simple thing and instead of a mass free-for-all, you'll see claws coming out of the ends of the pipes to grab food and disappear again. Moving on to the sixth cause of crayfish fighting, and as with many other animals, including humans, mating has always been a common cause of fights.
When a female is ready to mate, she urinates to the nearby males, telling them that she's ready and she's looking for the biggest, healthiest male.
Unfortunately, what often happens is that several males turn up to see her at the same time, hoping that she chooses them and the fighting starts.
Now, if we only have one male, it's not an issue, but if we have multiple males, we need to have a plan in place. This is where stocking at the correct male to female ratio can make a real impact. As an example, for our Australian red claw crayfish, we recommend that you stock a ratio of 1 male to every 3 females. We wouldn't recommend increasing the male ratio, but depending on your male, you may be able to increase the number of females.
There will eventually come a certain point where the male will be unable to cope, resulting in females holding unfertilised eggs on their abdomens until they fall off. Seventh on the list for reasons that crayfish fight is to do with the habitat,
Or lack of suitable habitat.
It's common to see tank setups containing numerous cut down plastic pipes for the crayfish to hide in. There's nothing wrong with that during daylight hours.
Crayfish dislike daylight, so they'll do everything they can to stay hidden until the hours of darkness.
The potential reasons if your crayfish are active during daylight: you're underfeeding them, you're feeding them during the daytime, when there's flowing water and they're attempting to escape, during mating time, if the water temperature gets too high, or if the water is contaminated. As the hours of daylight fade, it seems as though someone has flicked a switch and they become active and inquisitive. They leave their daytime lairs to explore the surroundings and begin searching for food. It's by far the best time for you to watch and learn about your crayfish. All you need is a torch with a low brightness and some food for them.
Due to the increased level of activity, most fights break out during this time.
As well as the commonly used plastic pipes, you can add plastic egg trays with a pipe or stone on top to weigh them down, floating and rooted aquatic plants that are also edible, and old leaves that are also edible. Avoid potentially toxic species such as eucalyptus. Although not suitable for adult crayfish, pieces of shade netting make a fantastic habitat for juveniles to hide and explore in due to its large surface area.
Providing them with a varied and interactive habitat works wonders in keeping them occupied.
Number 8 on our list is something that is often overlooked as a reason why crayfish fights occur. When a pregnant female is carrying eggs, known as berries, she becomes super aggressive and will fight to the death to protect her brood. These heightened levels of aggression even apply to species that are usually considered non-aggressive, such as our Australian red claws. Removing all buried females from the maid brood tank or aquarium and placing them in individual tanks is by far the best option to prevent fights.
It's worth noting that removing pregnant females may potentially cause an issue later on down the line, but we'll talk through that in the next section.
3 common ways of isolating your pregnant females are freestanding plastic bowls, plant pots with drainage holes, and plastic baskets with secure lids. All come with their pros and cons. Just be aware that if a female manages to escape into another female's container, fighting will occur, along with the probable death of the smaller female.
Unfortunately, we have witnessed this on several occasions over the previous few years. Your sexually mature adult females are the engine behind your production volume in your crayfish setup, so it's important that we do all we can to safeguard them when they're most vulnerable.
This 9th reason why crayfish fight relates to the previous one, where we recommend removing crayfish from a brood tank. At some point, that female needs to be reintroduced to the others so she can breed again. Introducing new additions or reintroducing crayfish to an established setup always causes some level of friction with the existing inhabitants. Recently added crayfish, unless they're a lot bigger than the ones already in the tank, will go running around everywhere looking for a suitable hiding place. All the best hiding places will already be occupied, and their owners won't want to give up their dwellings without a fight. Although we can't eliminate this issue, we can minimise it to some degree by doing the following. Introduce new crayfish at night when all the hiding places in the tank have been vacated. Introduce feed a few minutes before adding the new crayfish. and feed a little bit more than usual to keep them busy for longer. Last but certainly not least is our 10th reason why crayfish fight, and surprisingly, it's rarely mentioned. Depending on your setup, stocking levels, feeding schedule, filtration and other factors, you will eventually need to clean your tank.
Now, I don't include water changes in this because water changes very rarely cause fights.
We're talking about draining all the water, removing the crayfish, the habitat, sweeping out, hosing down, rinsing and refilling. Most of our tanks run air stones with no filtration, so our tank cleanings are typically performed monthly.
If you intend to install a filtration system into your crayfish tanks, the requirement for cleaning your tank out will be less frequent than just running air stones. At the end of the day, it's down to you. If it was an aquarium setup, I would have filtration.
While your tank is drained down, it's the perfect opportunity to check the crayfish for any buried females, soft shells that have recently molted, and any unplanned juveniles that have hatched.
All these should be separated from the others and relocated elsewhere. If it coincides, this is your perfect opportunity to reintroduce those females that you previously removed when they were carrying their eggs.
Try to avoid placing too many crayfish into small temporary holding tanks. It's not that they will kill each other, but they jostle for position and lots of front claws get snapped off. Having enough holding tanks and bowls is something that many of us struggle with if you have a large number of broodstock. Most of our bowls are occupied by individual buried females. As you begin to refill your clean tank, don't forget to spread out the habitat. Then reintroduce your crayfish as soon as possible, even before the bottom of the tank becomes covered by water. This is the perfect time, if it coincides, to pop in those females that have recently hatched their brood. Your crayfish will go everywhere, busy exploring, trying to escape and looking for new homes. Some like to stay in the flow of the water as the tank refills. Once you've finished refilling the tank, it will take a few hours for the activity to slow down. The habitat will have been rearranged to suit their preferences, and everyone should have a new home. Ensure there are sufficient hiding places for any new crayfish you've added. You may have to add a few more pipes. Also ensure you're feeding enough to account for any increase or decrease in the number of restocked crayfish.
By introducing some of the controls that we've talked about today, your crayfish will become calmer, resulting in less fighting, less limbs lost, and at the end of the day, less deaths. You will still witness the odd fracas. That's because crayfish are crayfish and there's only so many things that we can do to prevent them fighting. Sometimes it can be due to the limitations of our setup, whether that's because of lack of space or high costs. As breeders, we should do what we can to the best of our ability. I'd like to give you a little bit more information, but first I'd like to ask a favour from you. If you've enjoyed or found this video helpful in any way, please consider and take 1 second out of your busy day to press the like button for us. We'd much appreciate that.
I've added a link in the video description that will take you to our website. There you'll find more information about growing crayfish, a message feature to contact us directly. You can subscribe to our mailing list, and there's information about sales. Please note that we currently do not export our crayfish out of Thailand. Right then, our next scheduled video is crayfish top 10 predators and how to stop them.
So if you don't want to miss out on that one, make sure that you're subscribed. In the meantime, you can watch how to catch a ton of crayfish in a trap and 10 amazing facts about Australian red claw crayfish.